My name's Paula Berg. I do digital media for the corporate communications group at Hewlett-Packard. And I've had a crazy year with social media, kind of like my hair. I've just been like all over the place with some things. I want to share some of that with you. But before I do, I want to take a quick poll of the audience. This will be super painless. So by a round of applause, how many of you would say you have all the money and budget you need to do anything you want in social media? Is that no one? What's going on? Okay, let's try another one. Maybe some of you will have this. In terms of staffing, how many of you would say you have all the staff with all the skills you need? So you've got, graphic designers, Pulitzer Prize winning journalists. You've got a lawyer who knows everything about social media. Anyone have that? No, you're one. We hate you. I mean, we love you. No, you're awesome. Are you single? Can we spend more time together? Okay. Here's one that we can maybe all get around. How many of you, by round of applause, how many of you feel like you can always be doing more in social media? You're trying to do, okay, right. So I think we're all in the same boat. I've worked for small companies, I've worked for big companies, I've worked for natural gas, natural foods companies, nonprofits that have no money at all, companies that have deep pockets, and it just seems like no matter where you are on that spectrum, there's always more you can be doing. And so in this industry that's just more and more and more, I think we're all constantly plagued, or at least I know I am, with how do you do it all? And so the answer for me kind of came from an unusual place earlier this year. I just started working at Hewlett-Packard in January, and our boss, our CEO, Meg Whitman, said something that really rang true with me. It was our employee meeting, all hands employee meeting, and she was talking about what they accomplished last year, what they're looking to accomplish next year, and then she said something that was like a lightning bolt to me. She said, "Good strategy is as much the art of exclusion as it is inclusion." I just thought, good strategy is as much the art of exclusion as it is inclusion. I didn't tweet it, but I wrote it down and thought, there's something there that I need to be thinking about. And she went on to talk about, a good plan requires you to make very conscious decisions to do some things and not others, to exclude some things. And of course, it sounds really reasonable and easy, but it's not. Deciding to do things is maybe the easy part. Like, we're going to sell, we're going to win, we're going to do more, we're going to do it harder, we're going to do it better. But when you start to not decide you want to not do something, or even worse, decide to stop doing something that you've already been doing, it can get really hard and get really personal, right? People are attached to their projects, or there's maybe a pride element. You don't want to admit defeat, or maybe even a little bit of fear to say, oh my God, if I admit that I've been doing this thing that isn't getting results, what does that mean for me in my role here? But I think we all need to make it part of our process, part of like operationalizing, culling things that aren't getting us the results that we need. And I'm just as guilty as the next person of wanting to do like the biggest, best thing. And when I started working at HP in January, I really wanted to impress my boss. And so I did just that. I developed the biggest, baddest strategy in the world. And it was, of course, beautiful in its elegance and simplicity. And I was so excited to present it to my boss. And I get into his office, this beautiful deck, and I'm presenting. And about halfway through, he's just like, no. Just totally shakes me off, like, this is crap. I'm like, what? Lip quivering. Now I'm like, what do you mean? And my boss is a really smart guy, which is infuriating. So he starts challenging me like I haven't been challenged in years. Just why? Why are we doing this? What are we going to get out of it? And after about 30 minutes of just beating me down to exhaustion, he said, all I really need you to do is one thing. He said, I just need you to solve for X. And so what is X, right? So X is going to be different for all of us. And he didn't actually say X. What he said was, these are the 2 to 3 most critical things that our business needs from you right now. And I was so happy to hear, I think, what Jason said about the 3 things you need to do here. One of them is just, when you look at everything through social media, looking through that filter of what are the 3 most important things my company needs. And even that is difficult, right? Because if you were to ask 10 people at your company, what's the most important thing we need to do right now, you'd likely get 10 different answers. But now, armed with X, I went back to the drawing board, had what we needed, and then we started thinking about our audience. What does our audience need? And in my new role, I'm trying to reach executives that need tech solutions. This isn't a market I had worked in before, so we had to ask. So we just went to our audience and said, well, what do you need? What do you want? What's on your mind? How do you like to get your information? And once we had those 2 things, our strategy really just like fell into place and became crystal clear. So part of that strategy that I've been working on recently is my baby, my new thing, is an online magazine called Matter. And it's a pretty cool little project. It's a partnership with Fast Company. And what we're doing is convening the brightest minds in business to talk about the future of technology. And so I'm really excited about the project. It's going well. But the strangest thing happened along the way. We're planning. It's going great. People started coming out of the woodworks to tell me, you're doing it wrong. What? People were like, no, seriously, I see what you're doing, and you're doing it wrong. It's not how it's done. I'm like, what are they talking about? I thought I had this great plan. I'm excited about it. It's going really well. But it seemed everyone had an opinion. People inside the company, outside of the company, agencies, peers, experts. Chris Moody was giving me the business. I'm just kidding, he wasn't. But tons of people were just coming out to say, not only they had an opinion that I was doing it wrong, but they had a case study and a research paper and a social media platitude and a vendor that I needed to talk to and everything that I needed to be doing that I wasn't. And I started to have like a social media existential crisis. If I don't look crazy already with my hair like this, imagine when I'm like having a panic attack. So it was really crazy. I had to ask myself, well, who are these people? Because some of them I didn't really even know. And then, do they really know something I don't about what I'm trying to achieve? Because I could hear what they were saying. I mean, a lot of the things they were talking about were, frequency of posting and customer journey and optimization and all the things we hear about all the time. But in my gut, it just didn't feel right for our customers. It didn't feel right for my own use of social media. And so actually, I went back to that really smart, infuriating boss of mine and said, I don't know, I'm all over the place. I felt so good about this, and now I'm questioning it. And he kind of reminded me that no, it's not that they know something that you don't. It's the other way around, because they weren't part of our planning process. They don't know what X is, and they don't really know what we're doing. So kind of armed with that reassurance and confidence, I'm here to share with you a few of the best practices that we kind of have been thumbing our nose at over the last 6 months, and why I think those are right for us and why they might be right for your clients or your customers as well. So the first one is we're not going to post every day. We made a decision for HP Matter. We're not going to post every day. And actually, we decided we're not going to post weekly. And we're actually not going to post monthly. We decided we're going to go like House of Cards style. That was a little ambitious to think we could make our own House of Cards. But we're going to post quarterly or whenever we feel like this one big suite of content and then see what we can do with it from there. People went nuts. You would have thought that we were declaring war on social media. People were like, you can't do that. I actually was on a conference call once, and someone got on the call, someone I'd never met, definitely hadn't invited to this call, and started barking orders about me. And social media is now, social media is all the time. You have to post every day. You have to curate. You have to syndicate. You have to be bringing people back to your site all the time. And he hung up the phone, and I literally said, who was that? I have never met this person. I have no idea who it was. But what he didn't know was something that our audience had told us. They told us that we don't have time to be coming back to piece every piece of the puzzle together. Like, we're busy executives. We have, when I have a problem and I need an answer, I want to spend a little bit of time getting as much information as I can about it. So because our audience is telling us that, that's what we're doing for them right now. And it's actually working out in ways that we hadn't even anticipated. One, anybody in here run a blog? Lots of people. So so it's a lot of work, right? Creating that content and constantly cranking it out every day and making it high quality and making it meaningful is really tough work. So, applause to all of you that do it. But it's, pulling back a little bit has given us to be much more strategic in a way that we weren't before. We're able to, instead of just feeding the beast and instead of creating content for content's sake, we've been able to really think about the stories that we not just want to tell, but that we need to tell, that our audience needs to hear from us. Another thing we've been able to do is coordinate across our business. So a company like HP or tech, or if you work for any big industry, even if you don't, just coordinating getting everyone on board is a lot of work. So that time to coordinate with people has been very helpful. We can coordinate even within our business and within the industry. And then now that we have that content, we can batch and distribute it. So I think the shift here is instead of just posting and hoping that traffic comes in, we're really focused on distributing to the right people at the right place at the right time. And so we're not just getting eyeballs, but we're worried about getting the right eyeballs. The next thing we decided not to do is we're not going to make everything snackable. We're not going to make everything an infographic and a meme. And actually, again, I was at a conference a few months ago, and someone came up to me that I've never met and said, hey, I saw what you're doing. I like it. It's good. But your content needs to be more scannable. I was like, damn it, not again. Here we go. So she's like, it needs to be more scannable, and I've got the research to prove it, and I'm going to send you that research tonight. So I was like, all right. Well, later she sends me the research. And so, in good faith, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be doing it wrong. So I get a glass of wine, set aside about an hour to read through this stuff. It was a bottle of wine, but definitely polish it off. But so I click on the first link, click out. This is a piece of research from 1997. I don't know about you guys. I'm 38. In 1997, I was barely turning 21. I just had my 20-year high school reunion this weekend, and so I'm thinking, I don't even know if I had my own computer in 1998, and if I did, I certainly wasn't doing a lot of reading on it. I was typing maybe papers. So I read it, but I clicked through the next research, and it was from 2008. Like, all right, we're getting a little better, but even think back to 2008, how you were interacting with your devices. I think I still had a phone that was mostly keyboard with like a little tiny screen. So, here we are, it's 2014. Web design is better, our devices are better, people are experiencing content online differently. And so I think it's time perhaps for us to think differently about how we're packaging content. But even if we aren't, let's just assume all this 1998 or 2008, 1997 content is right, or research that says the average person just scans and wants snackable little bits. They don't want to read word for word. I guess my response to that is, but my audience isn't average. They're special. I'm not trying to reach everyone. I have a special little audience, and I'm going to treat them that way. And then I started to think, well, maybe I'm special too, because I'm getting kind of like tired of just snackable content. Does anybody like hold your phone and just think, oh, I just want something like of some substance? Anyone ever? A few people? So there's actually a brand that I follow. I won't say their name because only after I get drunk at the happy hour later. But this brand I've been following loyally, and they are the masters of snackable, scannable content just all day. I have their tweets sent straight to my phone, and it's like they're reading my mind. They're like, 3 reasons why you're doing it wrong. I'm like, oh my God, I have to read that. So I click on it all day. I cannot resist. And I end up so pissed most of the time because I click and it's not good, right? It doesn't really give me anything that I didn't know, really low value stuff. And I can't, I haven't unsubscribed. I don't know why. I'm afraid I'm going to miss that one thing. And the numbers would tell you like, oh, I'm their most loyal customer. I come to their site 20 times a week, 20 times a day sometime. But what those numbers don't tell you is that with every click, I'm just like losing a little bit more respect for them every single time. And it turns out I'm not alone. The Economist and a company called Peppercom, an agency called Peppercom, recently did some research, and they said that 35% of executives actually report being turned off by brand content. And I kind of thought, oh my God, that's so bad. It's like so much worse than low ROI. You're actually doing damage to the brand at this point, which is crazy. But more than 70% are looking for articles with substance and distinctiveness and value, so they're learning, like finding out something they didn't know. So because that's what my audience is telling me, that's what I'm creating. But it's not just executives. Does anybody know this guy, the dating dad? No? No one? Yay! Oh, nice. Have you dated him? Okay. Okay. Well, he's cute though, right? His name's Eric Elkins, and he's based in Colorado, and he writes a blog about being a single father. And he has a really interesting approach. He's really focused on this long-form, beautiful, sort of substantive storytelling. He posts once a month. He's been doing it since 2005. And he just posts once a month, this long story, and fans, like wait on the edge of their seat to read his content because it's really honest, it's really insightful. And I thought for all of the marketers that judge performance by leads, I thought let's text him and ask him, how many dates have you actually gotten from your from your blog? Because I'm guessing maybe she's not telling us the whole truth. But it's not just old people and single moms. We've got, has anyone seen The Rookie? Has some people seen that? Nice. Awesome, right? So The Rookie is an online magazine, kind of a newish online magazine for teenage girls, and it is long form. There are long stories, so which it's so interesting because not only is it kind of shattering these perceptions about snackable, scannable content, but also about young people who have no attention span and they're just texting and sexting and whatever young people do and WeChat and everything. But it'll be really interesting to see how a site like this develops with its long form content, if they can really sustain an audience. And then, of course, BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed is like the king of the scannable content, the king of like the GIF, right? Has anyone read BuzzFeed's Why I Bought a House in Detroit for $500? Anyone? A few people? So this story, if you haven't read it, check it out because it's an amazing story, but it's also really interesting from a marketing perspective. It's 6,000 words. I mean, that's a lot, right? 6,000 is a lot of words. But they have gotten more than a million page views to that site, to that page. More than 50% of them came from a mobile device. And even those people from a mobile device are staying on that site for 25 minutes or more, which kind of, again, just like destroys some of our perceptions about how people are engaging with content and what they want to engage with. So I'm not saying to abandon snackable, scannable content. I'm just saying there are options. And this is really interesting. In that 2008 research, if you scanned all the way to the bottom, there was actually a part that said, people actually do read word for word when. And it said when the content is relevant and interesting, or when it's being read for pleasure, or when the user experience is good. So it kind of goes back to that idea of like, if we talk about averages, it's kind of, you lose sight of maybe what your audience wants and needs. So my audience isn't average, and I'm guessing that yours isn't either. Another thing we're not doing, we're not trying to be everything to all people. Once you get alignment in your company, it's like the hardest thing to do, and then once you get it, it's like a double-edged sword. Everyone wants a piece of it, everyone wants to change everything, everyone wants to be a part of it, and it's really easy to kind of lose sight of your strategy, for things to get a little fuzzy. So we are drawing a line in the sand, and we are not going to let people kind of skew our strategy. The next thing we're doing is we're not doing a hard sell, which is something that's really hard sometimes to sell internally. We're not selling, we're just taking it down a notch. That same study that I referenced earlier said 71% of executives actually say their content turns them off when there's a hard sales pitch involved, and yet 93% of marketers are constantly linking their content directly back to their product or their service. So we're trying to take that down a notch, and another reason is that we're asking other people to tell our story, experts to talk about the future of technology. So it seems inappropriate to slap our logo on their chest. So we're still really worried about connective tissue. We're just trying to take a much more subtle approach. And then finally, we're not settling for perfection. A side effect of this kind of quarterly, kind of slower, more thoughtful production and distribution of content is that there's like a built-in production, distribution, test, and then like figure out what we did wrong and do it again. We cannot launch our second issue, our third issue, our fourth issue without fixing things that went wrong. And it's making it, when you get into the daily grind and you're in the weeds and you're doing things every day, it's sometimes you lose sight of the strategy and what you need to fix. So it's a really kind of slowing it down is a nice way to make things better and improve your ROI. So I'm not saying any of that is right for you. What I'm saying is you're going to hear from a lot of smart people today, people like Sarah Evans, people like Chris Moody, who have tons of expertise to share. But like Jason was saying, think about what's most important to your business and view everything through that filter. Because if there's three things I'd leave you with, strategy is as much about inclusion as it is exclusion. You can't do it all, and you don't need to. Two, that your audience isn't average, and their social media habits are evolving every day. So as you're building your strategy, make sure you're keeping in mind what they need from you. And then finally, just nobody knows your brand better than you do. So don't be afraid to trust your gut and ignore the best practices and make your own rules sometimes. So thanks.